Good day, good people. In this tutorial we are going to talk about the PHP 7 for loop. It's a very useful loop that you will learn, and well, it behaves a little like the C counterparts. You will see that it has several expressions and a statement, and it's highly flexible, so you can use it in a lot of contexts. Okay, let's see how that works. The for loop. So first things first, what's the basic syntax here? Well, the basic syntax is the one you see here. You have for, then you open the regular parentheses, you have an initial counter, a test counter, and an increment counter, and then the code to be executed. So it's it's a loop, but it tests for conditions, of course. So if the condition turns out to be false, the for loop stops to be working. Alrighty, let's close this window and get started. So, for example, let's say you wanted to print out every number from 0 to 10. You could go and do this. Is that big enough, by the way? Like that, localhost, there we go. Alrighty, so for example, let's say variable x gets set to 0. That's the basic condition where you can initialize a variable, what you usually do. That's first expression. Second expression is the condition. So in our case, we want to print out the numbers up to 10. Okay, so we say x, that's the condition, is smaller, it's like an if condition, than 11. Or you might say, and that would be the thing that you would usually do, smaller or equal 10. Okay, and the last thing that you want to do is you want to increment the number, because if you do not increment the number, well, it's gonna work forever. So the basic syntax here will be x plus plus, which means that every time the loop runs, it gets incremented by the value 1. Let's close the parentheses, put the curly brackets here, and within the curly brackets you put the code to be executed. So in our case, we just want to echo out the variable x. Important, we want them all on a single line, so concatenate that with a break. There's other ways, but that's just the thing that I got used to. Alright, semicolon, save, and no, refresh. Here we go. So we started with 0. That was the initial value of x, and that the condition turned out to be true because, of course, in the first case x was smaller or equal to 10 because it was 0, then got incremented, and after all these three expressions were finished, then we got an echo 0, and we continued like that up to 10. So, of course, if you don't want 0 to be in it, well, don't start with 0 then. You just start with 1, hit save, and here you go. You start with, what happened here? X is 1, X is smaller. Oh, yeah, of course, semicolon. It helps to read these errors, because many people just see an error and they go like, oh, fuck it, and they they close the window, but it tells you exactly what's wrong here, and it tells me syntax error, unexpected $x, and there was this, it expected a semicolon. Well, that's what I forgot. Refresh, and here we go. Okay, so now we started from 1 and we went all the way up to 10. Now, of course, this can go on forever if you make mistakes with the expressions here. Okay, you could also use a break statement if you wanted to break this, and there's several ways that you can change it. Okay, so you can also leave one of these three expressions empty, or you can put multiple expressions in it by a comma. You would separate them. Okay, this might get confusing, and there will be ways that you put so much stuff in there that you might not know what happens. I will show you another way of how to print out what we just did here. You can make x equals 1, same thing. You don't put the condition in here. You still need the semicolon though. And you just put x gets incremented, and then you nest the whole thing in an if statement. So you say if x becomes bigger than 10, you would go and then put a break. And a break, wait, that's not beautiful. Yeah, I don't like that. Here we go. Well, usually you wouldn't put those empty lines, but I like to put them because I think it's more readable, okay? In official code, obviously you would, okay, well, let's go with official code, okay? Official coding standard is that you don't put empty lines here. So let's not do that. All right, here we go. So that's how it would look. And every time the loop runs, of course, we get an if statement that checks, and it gets the same result here. We just basically move the second expression into an if statement within the for loop. Now, I don't know a use case right now. I don't know why you would do that, but it's important for you to know that the for loop is flexible, that what we did before was not the only way to do that. And another example is you can even put no expression at all in the parentheses. So let's do it like that. You still need the semicolons though, so let's put 2 of them, and then you do the same thing here. You check first, well, you initialize x and set it to 1. Then you have the for loop, which is empty in this case. Then you check with the x condition, same thing, and you echo it out. And then you put the increment operator for x down here. Semicolon, save, and as you see, it still works, okay? Now again, I don't know why you would do that. It is possible though, you can check that in the PHP manual, of course. It's flexible, it's doable, and you can experiment a little with it. And well, that's for that, okay? And well, the nicest example, of course, was the first one. That's the basic thing, but it's yeah, you can also do it with arrays. I would show that later. Now, one thing that I found out and that I didn't know before, I will show you this. It's very interesting. You can also iterate through letters like that, and this is how you would do it. Right, let's move that away. Okay, here we go. So for, well, that's just the name of the variable. You could also set it to x or whatever, equals the string a. It doesn't equal the string AA, and it gets incremented. Print it out. Now, what would you suggest this does? Well, it iterates through the whole alphabet. Did you know that? And after Z comes AA. So if you were to put AB in here, you see, it starts with AB. And if you were to put ZZ in here, and then you refresh, you got everything from A to Z, then AA, AB, AC, up to BA, BAB, BC, and all the way down to ZY. And well, after that, I guess there's 3 letters. Just to show you that this is possible. So if you wanted to iterate through the whole alphabet, you could do it with a for loop as well. Okay, folks, I got a exercise for you, which is that. So write a for loop that prints out all even numbers from 10 to 20. Do not use the modulus, because we recently talked about the modulus operator, the one that shows you the rest of a division, for example. Do not use that. You could easily do it with an if loop, for example, and the modulus, but we are going to try to work on the for loop here. So write a simple for loop, the first one that I gave you, for example, and print out all even numbers from 10 to 20, which is 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. Okay, so pause the video here and get to it. All right, so now let's see what you got. So the basic syntax, of course, I got the result right here, is the one that we learned before. For x equals 10, then second expression, the condition that x is smaller or equal to 20, and this is what changed here. We don't put x++ because this would print out all the numbers. We want to print out x equals x plus 2, so we increment x by 2. This is the short version. Again, the short version for x equals x plus 2. Okay? We talked about that in earlier videos, so I hope you remember that. It's a short version for that. Well, and then, yeah, echo it out, put a new line to make it pretty, and here we go. 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. That's it for today, folks. I hope this was helpful. If you have further questions, just ask me, and I see you in the next tutorial.